In our previous episode, Lin took down Beast God and walked away with both its essence blood and leg bone. After striking a deal with Old Ning, the leg bone was brought back for the Academy heads to examine. Among them, Mo Xinghe finally broke through to the divine level. The surge of power was impossible to ignore, drawing everyone's attention. Even old Mo was surprised to see his younger brother leveling up. The two Academy heads exchanged glances, clearly surprised that Mo Xinghe had reached the divine level ahead of them. Just then, old Mo teleported in. Old Ning, pointing smugly at himself, demanded credit, saying if it hadn't been for the leg bone he wrangled from Lin Boy, Mo Xinghe wouldn't have broken through so quickly. Realizing what's going on, old Mo remarked that Divine General Lin deserved serious thanks. But old Ning insisted the gratitude belonged to him instead. Mo Xinghe's divine aura continued to intensify, and before long, someone declared the human race had gained a new divine-level professional. Meanwhile, the pair exited the dungeon and checked the updated record. Our boy clearly wasn't satisfied with the 3-hour completion time. Meanwhile, Yi Yi, feeling amused, reminded him they'd already outpaced the other academies by a wide margin, but Lin reset the dungeon anyway, intending to speedrun it this time. Without wasting a second, the two vanished into the dungeon once more. Excitement buzzed at the entrance. Observers could barely contain themselves. Someone remarked that Divine General Lin truly lived up to his title, noting he was breaking records while casually doing with a girl. Another predicted that if this was just the first run, future records would be downright terrifying. One person chuckled at the thought of the 3 major academies watching their prized beast god get stolen out from under them. He said their disappointment would be priceless. Another clapped him on the shoulder and agreed, eager to see those reactions. Back inside, Lin wasted no time as he scooped Yi Yi into his arms, summoned his wings, and told her to hold tight, adding that they were heading straight for the 4th plateau. As for the earlier bosses, he will be leaving them to the trusty Skellies. Before long, the two arrived at the statue. The boss appeared as expected, but this time it was only a phantom, much weaker than the true body. Our boy didn't waste a single second as he summoned Soul Flame and announced he's gonna speedrun this time. As the scene shifts to the Creators Academy, they finally reached the boss statue, with Captain Fang Chao remarking that it was time to take down the beast god's true body. He praised their near-flawless performance on the earlier plateaus and was confident they'd set a new record. But the moment they activated the statue, they were stunned to see that it was just a phantom. Fang Chao, baffled, asked where the real body went. At first, he assumed the other academies got there first, but quickly dismissed the idea, asserting there was no way anyone could be faster than them. Either way, they had to take down the boss in front of them. Similar confusion rippled through the other 2 academy teams, and one of them even questioned where the hell the boss went. Back on Lin's side, the run was over. The 2 exited, and our boy figured the timing should be fast enough this round. Yi Yi, still riding the adrenaline, laughed and said it felt like an insane roller coaster, and if it felt that wild, it had to be fast. With the dungeon cleared again, Lin reset it once more, and he's gonna spend the next few days leveling up. By now, many students had gathered at the entrance, mentally prepared for a new record. But when they saw the actual numbers, they still couldn't believe their eyes. Then again, what they wanted even more was to see the faces of the 3 academy teams when they saw the record, noting it would be the real show. 3 hours later, the first team finally emerged from the dungeon. Fang Chao immediately rushed to check the leaderboard. Almost simultaneously, the other 2 academy teams stepped out. The 3 team leaders exchanged tense glances, clearly not on friendly terms, but all of them rushed over. However, when they saw the new record being 9 minutes and 43 seconds, for a moment, no one could believe it. Only Ling Yizhan scratched his head, let out a wry smile, and remarked, when it comes to competing with Divine General Lin, no wonder the rest of them felt utterly hopeless in comparison. But Fang Chao wasn't buying it. He shouted that the result was impossible, flat out rejecting the idea that anyone, Divine General or not, could clear the raid in under 10 minutes, so he insisted it had to be a cheat. Yet Ling Yizhan just shook his head, then told his own captain it was time to go, meanwhile asserting this was the real deal. The Genesis captain, surprised by the pushback, asked if he really believed Lin was that powerful. The guy didn't explain much, only remarked that meeting Lin was like a mayfly glimpsing the heavens. In case anyone forgot, this guy he's the dude who our boy met in the eternal trial ground. Anyway, the captain nodded, waved his hand, and just as he was about to take the team and leave. But right at that moment, Lin appeared at the dungeon entrance, and the first thing they saw was the gathered crowd. The moment Fang Chao saw Lin, his expression darkened, then demanded to know if he was Lin, the so-called youngest divine general. The knucklehead clearly showed no respect. The Genesis captain seemed ready to stop him at first, but then called him an idiot and decided to see him learn his lesson instead. Fang Chao strode forward, and our boy questioned who he was. He introduced himself from the Creators Academy and went straight to the point, asking how Lin had cleared the dungeon and how that record was even possible. Yi Yi immediately stepped in, clearly irritated. She snapped that it wasn't any of his business and questioned who the hell he thought he was, but Fang Chao sneered and said he wasn't talking to her. Lin's gaze turned cold, his tone even colder, and he replied that he had no obligation to answer, and then warned Fang Chao to remember who he was speaking to. Our boy wasn't here for a shouting match, but the killing intent in his eyes did make the guy gulp a little. However, he kept the same smug tone, saying he's also a prodigy from Creators Academy. He claimed it was only a matter of time before he too became a divine general, maybe even reaching the divine level, and figured Lin's silence meant he had something shady to hide. Yi Yi was just about to lose her temper when Lin stepped in. Obviously irritated, but since the dude was from his sister's academy, he decided to show restraint. Lin simply tells him that if he ever became a divine general, then they could talk. Until then, he should step aside. But Fang Chao, still oblivious to how big of a clown he is, refused to budge. He claimed he just wanted to ask a few questions and would step away afterward, all the while saying Lin probably got his divine general status by sheer luck. Yi Yi warned him to watch his mouth, but the dude simply didn't know when to stop. Our boy had already given him a chance and he declared he was courting death. A wave of energy suddenly gathered around him and killing intent blanketed the area. In a flash, Fang Chao's vision blurred. In the next second, he found himself somewhere strange. Not far from him, terrifying creatures were clawing their way out from beneath the ground. One of them lunged straight for him and bit his throat. His scream echoed through the air as more of the creatures swarmed him until his body vanished beneath them. A second later, he collapsed to his knees, drenched in cold sweat and gasping for air. Lin, calm as ever, asked if that was all the courage he had. Fang Chao couldn't even register the question. His mind was still stuck on whether that experience was real, and he said it felt way too real. His teammates rushed over to help him up. He was still shaking as he whispered that they needed to leave. Onlookers watched the shaken group walk away. No one, not even the other academy teams, had any idea what had just happened. All they saw was Fang Chao fall as if he'd been scared out of his mind. Meanwhile, the pair didn't give the scene a second thought, and immediately got back on that grind. Several hours passed. Fang Chao knocked on the principal's door, and then rushed to report what had happened at the dungeon hall, insisting that Lin must have cheated to clear it so quickly. The principal was having none of it, and he reminded Fang Chao that Lin was a divine general, a title equal in status to divine-level professionals. He questioned whether Fang Chao truly understood what kind of qualifications it took to earn that rank. He then remarked that Lin had killed more dragons and demons than Fang Chao could ever imagine, and that even he, as one of the academy heads, would address Divine General Lin with respect. The dude froze. First, he hadn't expected the principal to scold him so harshly. Second, he never imagined the principal himself would show so much respect to one person. The principal rose to his feet and then ordered Fang Chao to listen carefully. He tells him that the entire dungeon run had been seen by all three academy heads, then further explains that not only was it a speed run, but Lin also wiped out every last monster inside. Not to mention the beast god's true body was obliterated in a single hit. He snapped that if Lin had truly used any sort of cheat, wouldn't they have noticed? Fang Chao gulped nervously. His body tensed up and stammered, realizing just how stupid he was. The principal, now visibly disappointed, said that while Fang Chao might be a prodigy, his arrogance was the reason he lagged so far behind Lin. He announced that since Lin hadn't pursued the matter, it would end here. But as punishment, Fang Chao would lead a team and be sent to train at the Eternal Trial Ground. Fang Chao fell to his knees in despair. He tried to explain that the ancestral grounds of Genesis Academy were opening soon. He was about to say he didn't want to miss this chance. The principal turned away and snorted, telling him there would be future chances, adding that he had made up his mind. Fang Chao went quiet for a long moment before finally muttering a defeated yes, and soon, 10 days passed. No idea how many times the duo had cleared the dungeon by now. After another boss kill, Lin reached level 45 while Yi hit 44. Just then, Lin's communicator lit up. It was his teacher calling him over. A short while later, the two arrived at a courtyard. To Lin's surprise, sitting beside his teacher was the principal radiating divine energy. He quickly offered a bow and congratulated Mo Xinghei on his breakthrough. Mo smiled and acknowledged it was thanks to Lin that he progressed so quickly. White Divine chimed in with a grin, explaining that the real reason Lin was summoned here was because the ancestral grounds were about to open. Since Lin was enrolled in their academy, he automatically had a spot. Mo confirmed it and then began explaining the rules. Inside the ancestral grounds, many holy spirits were harmless, and they shouldn't be attacked. However, near the core area, fruit trees would appear. He tells Lin that he should eat as many fruits as possible since they offer great benefits. Once consumed, the second phase would begin. This phase is all about enlightenment, and he further explained that what a person comprehends there varies by individual. After that came the third phase. However, he admitted there's very little info on this phase. Based on past accounts, it seemed to depend on what the person experienced during the enlightenment phase. Lastly, he reveals that legend says there's a fourth phase, but the very few who made it past the third phase for some reason don't even remember entering the ancestral grounds in the first place, so no one really knows what happened there. Finally, they declared that this trial was held once every 5 years. 30 people would enter alongside Lin, and how much he gained would depend entirely on him. Lin offered his sincere thanks to Mo, and Yi stood beside him, visibly excited. 2 days later, the moment finally arrived. A powerful surge of energy burst into the sky, signaling that the ancestral grounds were opening. All of the top talents of Xiaojing Academy had already gathered at the entrance. Among the participants there are many familiar faces, including Lin's sister and also Mo Yun.